Here we go. I know we took last week off, ladies and gentlemen. Had to give your ears a little bit of a break from our beautiful voices. Me and Josh here with you, and we brought along a friend, Mr. Dave McCarthy, Mr. McCarthy himself. How you doing tonight, buddy?
Boys, what's going on? No need to call me Mister, by the way. I appreciate it. I'm all for formality, but in this case, we're good enough buddies. We can dispatch with such formalities.
There we go.
You got it, sir. You got it.
Oh, sir. Oh, okay. I see what you're doing.
Listen, we have to, pay homage to the man who covers the Maple Leafs, obviously. I mean, you're above us in the pecking order. We have to pay our respects.
Nonsense.
Not worthy. Not worthy. No, it's always good to have you on, obviously, go around the horn about the Maple Leafs. They're about to go on the old West Coast swing here. And usually it's not favorable for the Maple Leafs. We'll see what happens this go around. Leafs are a little bit hot right now. But the big topic in Leafland today was the sneaking up of Mr. Kyle Clifford. Obviously, he's there wearing Naz's old number. Do you see him getting in against the LA Kings? And I ask this question because the hot topic right now is players either getting to play in their hometown, or guys getting to suit up for the first time against their old team. And some coaches are for it, some coaches aren't. Wondering what the read is for you on Sheldon Keefe with Clifford against the LA Kings.
It's interesting. I'll tell you, Sheldon Keefe has always tended to be one that has, I don't know if gone out of his way is the right terminology, but made it a point of playing guys in situations where he knows it means something to them, which is, I think, a good way of keeping the room, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
So if they call him up, chances are, and especially when it's a veteran, they don't tend to call veterans up just to have them stick around on the edges. They call them up for a purpose. So chances are he might get an opportunity to play. Now, I'm not on the trip. I haven't talked to anybody. I don't know. But if you're going to call a guy up and bring him across the country, and you just happen to be facing his former team, the chances are you're going to find a way to get him in the lineup. And when they did make the deal last week to acquire Kyle Clifford, Sheldon Keefe was asked about him, and he said, look, he's a guy that's really well respected in our room. And when he gets into the lineup, if he gets into the lineup, so he kind of corrected himself, but he kind of let the cat out of the bag too. The fact that they went out and they acquired him, they have something in mind in terms of utilizing him at the NHL level. So, yeah, I would suggest that's a pretty good indication that there's a strong chance he'll get in. If not Wednesday, then at some point on the trip.
Well, definitely.
So
well, the obvious choice. Go ahead, Josh.
Who's he kick out? Because I'm looking at their lineup right now. Like, I like that third line of Richie Kempf and Kasha. That they looked really good on Sunday against the Islanders. And I look at Engvall, Spezza, and Simmons, and I would keep Simmons in the lineup. I don't think Clifford brings anything to edge out Simmons. And then is it Engvall that's sitting? Because I don't think you're sitting Spezza. Who comes out if Clifford comes in?
Yeah. What about Nick Ritchie? He hasn't exactly been bringing anything either. Look,
yeah, that's true.
At this point, maybe Michael Bunting. Sheldon Keefe has made a point of suggesting that he wants to utilize the depth that the Leafs have. He wants to be in a position where he's got more than 12 forwards. He's got more than 6 defensemen that should be in every night. So we saw a couple of weeks ago, I think it was against Buffalo, Wayne Simmons sat out. Didn't have as much to do with his play as it did the fact that he wanted to get some of the depth in the lineup. He wanted to get Semyonov a game. So, yeah, at this point, I think it's more about, look, the Leafs have put themselves in a decent position suddenly, winning, 10 of 12 here, where they have the opportunity to try to keep some guys alive, where if you need them down the road, you've played them at the NHL level. So whether it's Simmons, whether it's Engvall sitting out a game, whether it's Bunting, whether it's Ritchie, to get Clifford a look, I think that's I think that's fine. It's not, and as Sheldon has made clear, it's not necessarily all the time so much if a guy sits about his play. It's just that, look, we need to get somebody else in, keep him alive. Someone's got to sit down, and then chances are that guy will get back in the lineup the next night. So I don't think it pays to spend too much time worrying about who comes out. I just think it's more of an indicator that they view the guy that they want to get in as somebody that could potentially help them if need be. And I think that's a good thing, because teams need to have more than 12 forwards, need to have more than 6 defensemen that they can rely on if you're going to have an opportunity to do anything special. No team gets through the playoffs using 18 skaters. So that's sort of how I see that situation.
Well,
Yeah,
the question I
like
want to ask about that is for side note, sorry, Josh, is obviously I think this dispels any notion that Curtis Gabriel is ever going to come up to this team, going out and getting caught.
Well,
I would say
it's
that
not. Yeah, it's not ideal for Curtis. No, it's not.
So you look at this squad, obviously we talk about not so much who's going to come out and the reasoning why, but for me, I would see him coming in against LA, give him a game. I would say it's probably going to be Andre Kasha coming out, not because of his play. I know Josh can roll his eyes on that one, but he's been really banged up. I mean, how many trips to the locker room has the guy gone through the past few games, whether it's an arm, a leg, a shot block, whatever? Maybe you give him an opportunity to have a game or two off, load management him right now. I know he's hot, but you want to keep this guy rolling. We all know his injury history with concussions as well. That slide into the post on the weekend wasn't exactly endearing for his head. So maybe that's an opportunity to give him a moment and just let him recoup a little bit more, enjoy the sunshine and the warm weather out on the West Coast, and bring in a guy like Clifford, see where he fits in. I'm with Josh though, with you, Dave, rotating out Richie to me would be probably the smartest thing. But I think Pierre Engvall is kind of the odd man out.
It's possible, and again, Clifford didn't skate on a line today, as I understand it. So there's still the possibility and the distinct one that he does not play. Remember, he hasn't played all that much at all this season. He only played 2 games in St. Louis. And part of what they discussed when they went out and got him was that, okay, there's probably a role for him down the road, but they got to get him up and running again. So this could also be an opportunity just to get him out with the team. They've got some cap space right now with Peter Mrazek on injured reserve. Get him around the boys, get him feeling like an NHLer again, get him in some NHL practices, and that type of thing too. So I think the best thing to do will be, and it's kind of cliche, but it's to, let's wait and see what they say tomorrow afternoon after the morning skate, because that'll ultimately determine what happens here.
No, for sure. Another question I want to ask you, obviously, we're all hyped and excited for the brick wall that is Joseph Woll. Josh, I'll give you a tip of the cap right now. Predicted the shutout the other night. Didn't say it, but nailed it. Absolutely nailed it before the game. So kudos to you on that one. But now you have this young goaltender that's getting a taste of things. But here's the thing. You want to lock up Jack Campbell for long term. Obviously, you're getting great goaltending from him. So I'm looking, everybody says maybe 4 or 5 year deal for Campbell. You have Mrazek for 3. What do you do with a guy like Joseph Woll, who seems to be maybe finding his way here in the NHL, getting a shutout? I know it was against a depleted team, but even still, he's still getting his footing. He's 2-0 right now. What do you do with him now that you got Petr Mrazek and probably Jack Campbell for the foreseeable future? Not a bad problem to have, but
no,
a guy who's probably going to want some playing time in the NHL.
I'm sure he does want playing time. But look, the good thing is that we've seen more and more in recent times that teams need to rely on 3 goalies. I mean, gone are the days where one guy plays 75 games. You barely know your backup because of the program that you buy, and who knows who the hell the third goaltender is. That's not the case anymore. So it wasn't all that long ago that Toronto had Freddie Anderson and who else?
Nobody.
Right?
Nobody else. The carousel of backups.
That was not good. So if Mrazek can get back where he becomes a legitimate option, remember, you don't want Jack Campbell, as good as he's played, having to play 65 games. Too much. So there will still be an opportunity for Peter once he gets back in the lineup to take some games. and probably an opportunity for Joe Wall at some point. And that's just kind of the tough part about being a goalie in the NHL, a young goalie who's trying to crack in, is you got to be patient and wait for your opportunity sometimes. And sometimes it takes a long time for it to come. All you can do is when you get it is play good. And Joe Wall has done so. But I think we're far from the position right now where Joe Wall has played so well and played himself into a point where Kyle Dubas has no choice but to make a move out of the goodness of his heart to find him playing time elsewhere, right? Like, let's not get carried away. He's played 2 games. He's won them both. But right now he represents depth for Toronto's goaltending position and nothing else in that.
So just to ask the question to further that along, obviously Ian Scott's in the pipeline. You have Hutchinson, you have Colligren. For you, when you look at the pecking order going forward, when everybody's healthy, would you put Wall above Hutchinson and Colligren and Ian Scott and all that? Or is that kind of like compacted little thing there? Are those guys all competing for the same kind of spot right now? Or would Wall, with what he's done, I know 2 games, but we get excited here in Leafland. Any goaltending prospect, we haven't had those for a while. Hello, Tuukka Rask. You know, we haven't had those things to look at. So now we have one and we're like, we like this. So what is the situation there, do you think? Obviously, Hutch, the vet. We have the guy who came in from overseas in Colligren, and then the 2 young guys that we hope would turn into something, especially Ian Scott with what he did with the Prince Albert Raiders. Now it seems like a long time ago with all the injuries, but you know, we got this now pecking order. I'm wondering for you where everybody seeds in your eyes.
Well, again, I don't know if there's necessarily a pecking order right now. There's Jack Campbell, who's proven himself to be a guy that's capable of being a number 1 goalie at this level. There's Peter Mrazek, who has been a competent NHL netminder for quite some time. He needs to be able to stay healthy. And then there's everybody else, quite honestly. Ian Scott, stay healthy, right? Find a way to stay in the lineup.
Yeah.
That it sounds harsh, but that's just the fact of the matter.
It's a harsh
right
reality,
now. I don't care how good you are if I can never turn to you, and it's unfortunate, but he's dealt with some injuries. So before I start thinking about putting him on a pecking order, can you play a game? That's
yeah, true enough.
Right. So there's that, and then Colligren, he's looked okay at the AHL level. Sheldon Keefe did not summarily dismiss giving him a look at some point. But the way Wall is played right now, I don't think he has put Sheldon Keefe in a position where he feels compelled to look elsewhere. So right now it's Campbell, it's Wall for the time being. Once Mrazek gets back, it'll be Mrazek, then Wall, and until he falters, everybody else, really.
Well, let's have a little fun before we talk about the defense of the Toronto Maple Leafs. This team, you watch the videos and all the different things going on lately. Obviously, winning is a cure-all for everything, but this squad is playing a lot differently. Obviously, we watched the defense tighten up a little last year, and we said, they're playing the Canadian division. That's going to happen. It's the same teams. You can learn their habits, learn their weaknesses, and be able to defend against those things, except if it's named Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl. But this year, they've been able to do the same thing again and tighten things up a bit more, obviously at the sake of offense. But you look at this team and you say, okay, this group is coming together. And I tweet it out all the time. You talk about shot blocks. You talk about going after guys when they run a guy. Matthew showing emotion. Marner showing emotion a little bit. Guys are actually, the give crap meters there this season. I'm wondering for you, obviously you guys get to be around the team a little bit more than you were last year with COVID and all that stuff. Does this group feel a little bit more tight knit and a little bit more, I guess, having each other's back and ready to rock and roll? Because it seems that way from the fan side of things and from what I get to watch on video. I don't know what it is throughout the actual when the cameras aren't there, but it seems like this group gives a crap about each other and really wants to run through walls. And it starts with guys like Bunting and Kasha, blocking shots. David Kampf, absolute beast on the faceoff dot, blocking shots as well. it just seems to run through the lineup. I'm wondering for you, do you see that as well, or is that just smoke and mirrors for us watching from this side of the screen?
Yeah. What I would say is that the Leafs right now, they've put their game in a position where I think it's more conducive to success at the toughest times of year. Do I think that has anything to do with being more cohesive and all? Like, I don't know about that. I think the team was in the past pretty cohesive. We talked about Matthews and Marner and Marlowe for all those years. And then when Jumbo came in last year, all the guys talked about how much they loved him. And, I didn't think it was so much a lack of wanting to have the other guys back in previous years, so much as it was a refusal to accept what needs to be done in order to have success in the postseason, the style that one needs to play. I think right now, as much as it's nice seeing a little bit of pushback here and there when a guy gets run or whatever it is, what I'm more interested in is the fact that they're playing a style that's tight, right? Like, it's not running around trying to win games 6-5. They're quite comfortable by and large playing a 1-0 game, a 2-1 game, a 2-0 game, and steering that home. And I think that has more to do with just the fact that the core of this team, because it goes back to what I always say, and we spend time talking about Kyle Clifford and the goaltending depth chart, and I get all that, but in the long run, that doesn't much matter as long as Marner, Matthews, Tavares, and Nylander, if they're not driving the ship, none of that matters, right? And what we're seeing right now this year is that those guys are playing a style that it's not we're up 2-0 in the third period, we got to get third. It's we're up 2-0 in the third period, we got to make sure we don't give up the first.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's the difference. So you see buy-in from those guys. That third line of Kasha and Kampf has been relatively effective now. They don't give you a ton in terms of offense, and that concerns me a little bit, because you look at teams that go deep in the playoffs, they get offensive contributions as well from their third line from time to time. That's still an element of concern. I mean, there's still an element of concern as to who's going to play left wing with Matthews and Marner. Well, let's not get carried away. And the answer to that is no, because there's only one puck on the ice, and all three of those guys would want it. You got to get someone. Someone. I know what you're saying. But so anyway, long way of saying it is, I don't know so much as it's more cohesive. I think there's just a bit of a growth and a maturity to some of the younger core guys that have now been through it long enough to where they realize, okay, we tried it our way. It's not going to work. So if we want to win something, we probably got to incorporate another element to our game, which is to say, have a clue when we don't have the puck.
Well, the last show we had you on was the Leafs, I guess, season preview show we did here at Offside. And the last person we had on, I was with Josh and Alex Hobson. And I said, the way the Leafs are going to win me back this season is to win games, low scoring, doing the things that you need to do to win in the playoffs. You need to suck the life out of the game and not let the other team back in. Not so much go and score another goal, like you just said. And I said, once you suck that life out of the game and you give the other team no hope of coming back, you don't need to score the goal. You just need to dictate the pace and let the other team know that they're not going to score, or keep the shots to the outside, whatever you need to do. And the Leafs have been able to do that. And some people say
has Jack Campbell been able to do that?
Well, it's a little bit of both, though, right? At the same time.
It's a bit of both. Like that Nashville game last week, even though it was a tight game in the third period, they were only up 1-0 until later on in that third. I never really got the sense that game was in any kind of jeopardy whatsoever. So it's not like Jack was standing on his head. It's that they weren't giving up all that much. And that's that's been one of a number of examples of this year of that type of play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like you
I mean,
just
I
said,
take a look at that Islanders game on Sunday night, and I go,
Yep.
the way the Leafs wanted to play this season would be a hybrid of how the Islanders play, and they went into what's the new UBS Arena
UBS, yeah,
and beat them
the
by
purple
playing
chicken burger
a
arena.
style that the Islanders would play, and they beat them that way. Then handedly, there was no issue.
Yep.
And that
Same
wasn't Jack
situation.
Campbell in net. That was Joseph Wall in net, and they were not, and that's not the first time they've done that this season. But I think it was the one that put the biggest exclamation point on a victory, because you did have a rookie goaltender in his second NHL game in net, and you were able to see, okay, this team can do that no matter who's between the pipes. I probably could have been between the pipes in that game. It would have been 3-0, 3-1, right? So it was. The way they're playing has been really reflective of the way the mentality has shifted in this team.
Yep. No, I completely agree with that. It's another good example. And again, Sunday night against the Islanders, that game never felt like it was in any kind of jeopardy. And that's good, because it's nice and fun to score goals and end up on the highlight reel. But if you can't steer a game home in the third, like Tampa Bay did the last couple of years, where they're up 1 or 2-0, then how many shutouts did Andre Vasilevsky have in clinching games in the last, what do you have, 5 in a row? Right. Well, what is that?
Yeah.
What does that tell you? You get one goal and it is over with. And really, at the end of the day, the fact that Nikita Kucherov may not have been in the top 10, but he's got 2 Stanley Cups. That's all that matters to a Tampa Bay fan right now.
That's 100%.
I just hope that they don't stick with this whole 1 goal, 2 goal formula, because 2 of the most entertaining games I've been to were the 8-6 Carolina game and then the 7-6 Philadelphia Flyers game. So I hope we still see a couple of those. It's amazing. It's phenomenal.
It's entertaining, but it doesn't win you much. That's for sure. I'll tell you.
But if you win those ones, then who really cares, right?
Well,
if it's a one-off, fine. But if that's how you intend to win, as did in those seasons, you don't have a hope.
Yeah, no.
Well, that's what a lot of people are saying about Edmonton, right? If Edmonton's going to run and gun with McDavid and Draisaitl, and have to run the score up because their goaltending isn't great, then obviously there's going to be problems in the playoffs. The thing that I like about the Leafs most, guys, this season so far for me is the buy-in from the forward when the D goes down into the offensive zone. The guy is back. It reminds me when Travis Dermott first came up, and everyone was laughing at him because he always would put his arm up to say that he's either going in or he's got who's ever covering, right? He would always put his arm up just to signal that. And obviously the other team caught on to what he was doing. So they stopped doing that. But now this year, the buy-in's back. The forwards are coming back and covering for the D when they want to pinch. And that is something, Josh, that we harped on last year. Did not happen. There was nobody back there covering. And how many 2-on-1s did TJ Brody break up? He hasn't had to break up nearly as many this year. He still is. He's the machine at that. But it feels better to know that there's forwards actually giving a crap to stay back, whether it's Matthews, Marner, you see them coming back, Nylander on a back check. Those things were never things you would talk about, a couple seasons ago, but we talk about that buy-in chip, and the buy-in's definitely there. And I'm loving that. Absolutely loving that. I'll eat that up with a spoon every night. You can win 2-1. I'll be happy, because when the playoffs roll around, those types of games, you're comfortable playing in them. The Leafs were never comfortable playing in those games the past couple of seasons. You go into the third period, a 1-goal lead, every single Leaf fan to a man would say, when are they going to blow it? How does this game slip away? And it would. A lot of them would. Or they go to overtime, they get the loser point. Those things would happen. And you'd just be like, why can't you just shut the door? And this year they're being able to do that. Jack Campbell's been great. Now this leads me to the thing I said, the defense. You got Peter Mrazek coming back. Obviously, you're going to be in a cap crunch. What does Kyle Dubas do? Because you don't want to lose Liljegren, and you don't want to lose Hall, or any of those things. You don't want to have to make a trade just out of necessity for cap space. But what do you do here? It's obviously another good problem to have, but we just talked about needing depth. You need 13 plus forwards. You need to make sure you have 7D. What does Kyle Dubas do?
Well, I mean, the first thing is Semyonov goes down. Second thing is Kyle Clifford goes down. Those guys are what they are right now. It's their depth, but they're not at the NHL level. The only way you really alter the makeup of your team is if you divest yourself from somebody who commands some dollars in the NHL lineup right now. And, on the back end, there's really nobody to move that carries a ticket, right? You look at the lineup up front, really the only guy, unless you want to get crazy, and I don't think they do, is a guy like Nick Ritchie at 2.5. I can find someone at 750 to give me exactly what Nick Ritchie's given me, but where do you get rid of that money? So right now, I don't think you're going to see a fundamental alteration of this lineup in the near future, just because of the fact that the salary situation is what it is right now, and they're not in a position to really make a move unless they have it's dollar in, dollar out. So I think what they're doing right now is, while Mrazek is injured and they have the luxury under the cap, is to give a guy a taste here or there. But once he gets back, you got to get him back in the lineup. You got to see if you've got a secondary option in net. And then once you do that, your options become significantly limited right away. The defense, as it is right now, the last thing you want to do is lose one of those guys, because I don't think they've got enough depth as it is on the blue line.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how I see that playing out, is they've got an opportunity right now. And then remember, don't forget, guys, Ilya Mikheyev's coming back in the next 2 or 3 weeks as well.
Yep.
And that'll be good, because I think they could use an upgrade on the left wing. But then that'll add another question as to someone who's going to have to find a way to move out.
Do you think by the end of the season or by the trade deadline, if things stay the way they are with Nick Ritchie, that he's a part of this team? I ask that because, like you just said, there's guys that we have that we can use that will bring the exact same effort, energy, the whole 9 yards. I look at Kyle Clifford. We talked about Curtis Gabriel, Ilya Mikheyev, obviously coming back as well. The list goes on and on. That's $2.5 million. If you can find a way to move that ticket and maybe use that cap space to bring in another bottom six guy on D, which is probably what the Leafs are going to be looking at, someone with more bulk to their game. I think Zach Bogosian-esque, if you could find it for cheap, which you might be able to if a team retains. Is Nick Ritchie the guy that you probably see out? And I hate to say that, because I beat the Nick Ritchie drum hard before the season, hard the first probably 15 games, saying that he was maybe going to click. It just would take time, but it just doesn't seem like it's going to.
I haven't seen it yet from Nick Ritchie. I really haven't. And the issue is, it's not only this year, but next year too, at $2.5 million.
That's a problem.
I'm still, yes, it is. I'm still not clear on how he was able to command a 2-year deal at 2.5 when he went unqualified by Boston. Well, number one, if Boston's not going to qualify you, that says an awful lot. Two, no matter who has not qualified you, you don't have a lot of negotiating power. So I don't know who's his agent, because I want that guy's my agent.
Well, what? Maybe Kyle Dubas just wanted to win, though, right? He didn't have much cap space. He wanted to win.
Nick Ritchie?
Well, what else was there at that price point? What else was there?
I'll go back and look, but.
Well, you could have not signed him had Gabriel in your lineup, and
Josh Hosang would probably be a better upgrade right now.
You know what I mean? There would have been a different. And he's on an AHL deal. Let's not forget.
Well, but you could have not signed Nick Ritchie, and then you could have a Hosang, and you could have kept Adam Brooks.
Yeah, Adam Brooks is good depth too, but again, he's depth. I know a lot of people like Adam Brooks and this and that, but he's a 13th forward, 12th forward on a contending team. And
is that not what we're getting out of Ritchie?
You're
right. Now,
though?
I know hindsight's 100%. Like if we're looking back at it right now, hindsight's 2020. We have all 100%. The knowledge, right? But
100%. I think you could have gotten what you're getting out of Nick Ritchie out of Adam Brooks for, what is that, 175 less. So
yeah.
Nick Ritchie to me his play has just not been there. I have not seen really anything all year long that leads me to believe there's something that's gonna come to fruition there. he hasn't scored. He has not helped Matthews and Marner at 5-on-5. Their 5-on-5 scoring is down this year, and I don't think that's any coincidence to the fact that Zach Hyman's no longer there.
Team Canada player Zach Hyman.
Maybe. I don't think that's crazy, to be honest with you.
Nope.
So, Nick Ritchie's play's been a problem. It really has.
And he always looks confused.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not so much on how a guy looks. He's just
like the way he's playing, right? Like the way he's skating around the ice. He's like, should I be here? Should I not be here? It's almost like he's not used to playing with players of that.
Because he's not a top because he's not a top 6 player, right?
That's why he's a bit more comfortable, I think, with Camp and Kase, right? He seems.
Well, he looked. I thought he looked the best he looked on Sunday.
Yeah, he did. But it shows you how low the bar is, right?
Yeah,
because he hit somebody once. We're all like, oh yeah, like I mean,
there's
holy cow.
Yeah,
holy cow. The bar needs to be a little bit higher than that because I can find a guy for $750 to run around and crunch people. So, that to me is 2.5 in the lineup that isn't giving you near enough. So, if they can find a team that would be willing to take it on, Kyle Dubas is a better general manager than I. He is a better general manager than I am, but it would be some stroke of magic to find someone to take that year off their books.
All right. So before we let you go here, we're going to wrap here in about 5 minutes. I want to ask you, Leafs going on the West Coast trip. What do you think their chances are? For me, I'm saying they're going 2-1. I think they're going to lose the Friday night game. I think they beat LA. Kind of revenge for the loss they had, ending their little streak, but they went on another one afterwards. And I think they beat Anaheim. Josh Terry, he had his streak snapped. So I think they lose to SJ on Friday night. But what do you think there, Mr. McCarthy? Or sorry, Dave. Sorry.
Yes.
Formalities are gone.
Well, I don't know. I tend not to be in the prediction business. Look, if they play the way they have for the better part of the last 12 games or so, they're going to have an opportunity to win every game. LA, they'll need some revenge against for sure, because they of all of the games of late since that Chicago game that they finally won, that LA game has been their worst of the stretch. So they got out there, they had a day off yesterday, practice today. I hope they show something and bring something tomorrow against the Kings. After that, the Ducks, I'm still not convinced if they're for real or not. Are they a team that just happens to be playing?
They're for real.
You think they are, right?
Oh, I've watched every single Ducks game. They and I was asking the same question probably about 10 games ago. And just watching this team, they remind me a lot of the 2016 Leafs. They might be a little bit better than them, though.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a decent comparison. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting young players on that team right now. They've lost, a couple in a row now. So, they'll be hungry coming into that game.
Yeah.
And then San Jose, Leafs didn't play that good against San Jose earlier on in the year too. So a couple of opportunities for revenge, but that's the key to being a good team is that you find yourself in a position more often than not to be in games and to not go through duds in the schedule where you essentially fall off the map for 4 or 5 games. Obviously the start of the year did not go very well, but the last, like I said, 12 games or so, apart from that LA game, they've been in every game. And that has been impressive for me to see, because I would not have bet on that where we were coming into that Chicago game after that Carolina game. I thought the season was going sideways. I really, really did. So credit to them for being able to turn it around, put themselves right back up at the top of the league. And by and large, convince a lot of people that they have figured something out here. So we'll see how it goes, but it's always a tough test, no matter the caliber of the teams out there. When you go to California, the road trip in and of itself can be a bit daunting at times, and we'll see what happens.
Does Troy Terry play on Austin Matthews' wing at the Olympics?
Let's do it.
Possibility. Could happen.
Long list. All right, so 2 last things before we let you go here. One serious, one not. The serious one, the Vancouver Canucks, obviously we all know what's happening there. Mind-blowing. I thought they'd have a lot better season than they did. Do you see one or both Travis Green and Jim Benning not being there? And does that even fix the issue in Vancouver?
I mean, you got the dreaded vote of confidence from the ownership there last week, which is usually never a good sign. Look, this is a team that it's not like they are. How should I put this? They came into the year with some level of expectation to be good, and they have not been. So it's not like, Ottawa, for instance, where you kind of went into the year hoping you'd be half decent, but you could also understand if there was another year there where you needed to develop. And unfortunately for them, they've been hit with a number of extenuating circumstances again this year, which is not entirely fair to them, but it is what it is. Everyone gets dealt the same cards at times. With Vancouver, it's woeful underperformance right now based on the expectations that they had. So look, Jim Benning's been there 8 years, right? And there's still a lot of issues on that team. The salary structure in a lot of places is not the best. And then when you go to the personnel, there's a lot of guys that are just not producing nearly what they are expected to produce. Elias Pettersson has quite frankly been poor this year. And that's concerning after he gets his new ticket. Like, he looks like a shell of himself. He was one of my favorite guys in the league to watch a couple years ago.
Exciting player, man. One of the most exciting players.
Yeah, like he would just skate around guys. He would be hounding the puck. Now you watch him and he loses the puck, and it's, wouldn't you know, I lost the puck. There just doesn't seem to be any
it's
desire
for him.
Yeah. So does that fall on coaching? Do they need a new voice? Would a new voice change the look of that team? I don't know. I still think there's some holes in that lineup, but they should be better than they are. I guess it's a long way of not really answering the question, but
all right, we got a lot of runway to see what the Vancouver Canucks will do, though. And the last one for me, we got about a minute here before we wrap. The New Jersey jersey. Are you going to buy the New Jersey?
Yeah. I won't be buying it because I'm not really Jersey guy, as it were, not the New Jersey guy, but Jersey guy in general, kind of past that stage. But I am a fashion guy, and as hockey fashion goes, I like that. I like the look, and I see what they're doing there. I'm a big, like Kramer he's all about layers. There's layers to that. Right?
Yeah,
like
there is.
It's New Jersey. It's also a jersey. It says that right on. I saw someone on Twitter. I saw someone on Twitter today coming out with a hat that said "hat" on it, in the same motif, the same font.
That's the SDPN doing that.
That is.
It was it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like that. So
there you go.
I wouldn't buy it, but I'm all for it. Same way I wouldn't buy the Vegas Golden Knight shiny gold helmet, but I also like it.
Well, there we have it. Well, Dave, I appreciate you jumping on. This has been Offside Hockey Talk, where hockey comes to talk.